Hey guys, and welcome back to another book review. So today's book review is, I don't know, it's very interesting to me. And this is the Five Nights at Freddy's The Silver Eyes book. So you may know what Five Nights at Freddy's is because they're a horror video game, which is how I know them. I've never played them. I've never played the games, but I watch Markiplier and Jacksepticeye here on YouTube play them. They're my favorite YouTube gamer channels. I watch them play a lot of horror games. So I have seen Five Nights at Freddy's and I get the premise, but I actually didn't know that there were books based off the video games. My boyfriend told me, which I was kind of like, do I want to read it? It sounds kind of dumb, like, because I actually don't find the video game to be that scary. I think it relies heavily on jump scares a lot of the time, but I didn't find the actual premise of the video game scary. The jump scares can kind of get me sometimes, depending on like the game, like it just depends. But overall, I don't think it's too scary. But I was intrigued by the book because, as you all know here, I love my horror books, and I don't know, there was just something about it that I was like, I was just kind of like, maybe I should give it a try. Maybe it's actually really good, and I just don't know. So here's the first book. I believe there are two others, so 3 in total in this series. And you got good old Freddy the bear here on the channel. No, here on the cover. I think the cover's cool looking. It reminds me of the game. Like, honestly, it looks like the game, which is, you know, good. It's by Scott Cawthon, who is actually the person who made Five Nights at Freddy's, the video games, and Kira Breed Risley, I think that's how you say their names. So let's read the back of the book. It says, from the creator of the best-selling horror video game series Five Nights at Freddy's. 10 years after the horrific murders at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza that ripped their town apart, Charlie, whose father owned the restaurant, and her childhood friends reunite on the anniversary of the tragedy and find themselves at the old pizza place, which had been locked up and abandoned for years. After they discover a way inside, they realize that things are not as they used to be. The 4 adult-sized animatronic mascots that once entertained patrons have changed. They now have a dark secret and a murderous agenda. So I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit of synopsis. All that I'm about to say happens within the first 30 to 50 pages of the book, so I'm trying not to give away the huge, like, plot. I just want to give you guys, like, how it really begins. I'm also looking at notes. That's why I might look that way, because I have my iPad with my notes. Charlie's the main character. Her father owned Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, obviously. And she's the main character, and it starts with her driving into Hurricane, Utah, which is where the restaurant was and the whole murder thing. She is 17 at this time, and the murder happened when they were 7. She ends up meeting with her old friends, Marla, Jessica, John, Carlton, Lamar, and Marla's little brother, Jason. And they're all there together because the parents of their friend Michael, who was the little boy that was murdered 10 years ago, not 7, when they were 7. The parents are announcing a scholarship in his name. So they're all there to, like, support the family, and it's been 10 years, and they're just there to be, like, a support system for each other and to remember their friend and stuff like that. Charlie's dad was the owner of Freddy's Fazbear Pizza, the pizza place with all the animatronics, and he actually made the animatronics because her dad had, like, a thing for making, like, toys like that. Her room is full of toys like that. Like, Charlie just, like, grew up with that kind of thing. So her dad was the person who made the, you know, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Michael, they never found any of these children's bodies, but presumably they're dead because they've been missing for 10 years and it's just kind of been too long. So there were other children that went missing besides Michael. Michael was just their friend, so he's kind of like the center of everything. So after they all meet up and get together, they decide to go back to Freddy's, the pizzeria place. and they have to break into it because it's actually entombed into a mall. Like, it's like inside the mall. They just built around the pizzeria instead of demolishing it and then building new. They just entombed it inside of the mall. So they find this secret door inside them. They break into the mall, they find a secret door, and then they get inside, like into Freddy's. And they're not really like, I don't know, it's not really anything destructive. They're just intrigued. Like, they haven't been there in so long, and it was such a part of their lives. I mean, Charlie literally like lived there because her dad owned it. I mean, that was just where she was all the time. So they're there just to take a look. They're just looking at the different areas, the kitchen, the arcade. They get into the control panels and they start looking at the cameras, and they can move the animatronics a little bit. And they're just looking, I guess, just to reminisce, because they're all together like a group again, and it's just there. That's basically all I can tell you about the plot, because there's a lot more to it, but that'll just be too spoilery for my liking. Yeah, there's a lot that happens, and I can't really say it without giving away a lot, but that's pretty much the premise. They go back into Freddy's, and then stuff starts going down, if you catch my drift. I will say the book is very, very slow. Like, really slow. Like, nothing happens until halfway through. And I mean, this is a decent sized book. So about halfway, like maybe like here, well, I just opened it to a random spot, but around here is when things start picking up, and I was like, okay, this is what I've been waiting for the entire time. I guess it's just more focused on character development, as in telling you about their lives, but really it's only focused on Charlie. It doesn't really tell you about the others. So the only character development you really get is Charlie, like when she was a kid, and then how she's grown up, and how she feels about her childhood and her reminiscing, but it's only her that they really focus on. You don't really hear about the other kids, which is, I mean, I get it, she's the main character, but it kind of would have been nice if you spent half the book, you could have given me a little bit more about them, but understandably, it's about her. It's just a lot of background knowledge, like background on her childhood, background on her memories, background on her life, I guess, but not her current life, mostly just her past life with her dad and Freddy's and the animatronics and that kind of thing, like her relationship with her dad. The plot wasn't what I was expecting, because when you watch Freddy's, the game, the Five Nights at Freddy's video game, you have a very clear purpose. You're there, you're working at night. I mean, if you guys have seen it, I'm assuming if you clicked on this video, you know the video game, but you play as this, like, I guess like night guard or whatever, and you have to control, and the animatronics come to life, and you have to like make them go away and stuff like that without dying, and you have to make it to 6 a.m., right? I mean, that's a very like little plot that I'm giving you, but I'm assuming you know Five Nights at Freddy's. It's very different because you don't get a background story in the video games, which is, the book was interesting because you got a background, which I liked. You had more of a story, you knew the people behind it, like like Charlie and her dad and the kids, and you got a background for it, because in the video games, I don't know if they ever tell you, you just know that something like really bad happens, and like the animatronics come to life, and the past workers are like crazy for believing it and stuff like that. Sometimes the book made me feel like this was all psychological for Charlie. Sometimes she would say things or she would react in a certain way, and I was sitting here going, is this all in her head? Like, I couldn't tell at where this was going, and maybe that's the point. Maybe it is supposed to be about Charlie and her mental stability. I don't know, but it's very psychological at points, and some of the things Charlie did and said, I was kind of like, are they imagining this? Like, is this all in her head? I can't tell. Maybe that was just me, but I did feel that way at certain points, but then the plot changed and I was kind of like, oh, never mind. Maybe I'm just imagining it. This is not a scary book. I mean, it wasn't for me. Like I said, I don't really find the games that scary because they're reliant on jump scares, and while I do find jump scares scary a lot of the time, I don't know, the game's just not inherently scary to me. I mean, animatronics coming to life are pretty like crazy. I just don't, I'm more into realistic horror where there's like a serial killer or, you know, psychological, even supernatural, because I do believe in the supernatural. And this does have tones of supernatural in it, I will say. So I did appreciate that, which made it a little bit more believable for me in the book than it does in the video game. I think the whole point of the book, besides like the like actual plot, is Charlie just trying to figure out her life. Like, it's just her collecting her memories and resurfacing and figuring things out, and then like it all coming together. That's what a lot of the book was for me, is just Charlie figuring out her life and her past and mixing them together, if that makes sense. But that was what the book was a lot for me until like the very end when things started like going down, you know? I did really like the book. Like I don't know. It was so different from the game, but at the same time, it's very reminiscent of the game. You'll read something and you'll be like, oh, that makes sense because in the game this happens, and you're like, oh, that's cool. But it's so different from the game at the same time. So I actually do think that's quite cool that it can be reminiscent of the video game, but still be different on its own and hold its own, like, it can hold its own, you know? And I don't know, I did like a background story for Freddy's. I thought that was cool, like having some kind of thing that happened to make Freddy's why it's so scary and stuff like that. I did like that. The ending did throw me for a loop, only because the whole time they're building it up to be a certain way, and then it just starts happening a different way, and then it like collides into one different ending than I expected. I don't know, it was very strange. I did call some things while I was reading, while I was like, obviously it's this, and I was right. But then some stuff I was like, oh, okay. So it was like a little bit easy to guess, but then also it did throw me for a loop a little bit. I don't know, this is just a very interesting book. It's not what I expected. I don't know how I feel about it. I did like it, and I did like reading it. I kind of want to read the other two because now I'm kind of invested in the plot and like I know what happens, so now I kind of want to finish the series. I don't know. It was different. I don't know how to say that without being like it was bad or it was good, because I don't really feel like it was either of them. I think it was just different. Maybe not bad different, but more good different than anything. I did like it though. I did like reading it, and I picked it up for $5.98, so I mean it was only like $6, so it wasn't a waste in my opinion. And I did have fun reading it. I did like it. So I don't know, guys. You'll have to let me know if you've read it, and let me know in the comments down below if you've read it. Also let me know what Five Nights at Freddy's game is your favorite. I don't have a favorite. I do like the VR one that's happening right now that Jack and Mark are playing. That's been really fun. It's been the scariest so far in my opinion. But yeah, let me know if you like Five Nights at Freddy's. Again, I don't play it. I just watch people play it. I'm not a very big video game player, but yeah, let me know if you read this book. Let me know if you've read this book in the comments down below. Let me know what your favorite game is, and yeah, let me know if you want to see me read and review the other two books. And yeah, I guess that's all I have for you guys. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. I hope you give it a like and maybe subscribe to my channel. And I hope I see you guys in my next video. Bye!